What if Superman had never been raised by the Kents? What if, instead of becoming the symbol of hope we know, he was found by the government and turned into the ultimate military weapon? In this alternative ending story, we'll explore a darker path, where Kal-El is forged in secrecy, trained to obey, and unleashed upon the world not as a hero, but as a weapon of war. Prepare for a journey through power, control, rebellion, and the question that could change everything. What happens when the most powerful man on earth decides he will no longer be anyone's weapon? Take a breath, and let's go. In the vast silence of space, a world dies. Krypton, a civilization of brilliance and arrogance, shatters under the weight of its own hubris. The skies fracture with fire. Towers crumble into ash, and the heart of a dying planet beats its final, desperate rhythm. Amidst the chaos, one decision, one desperate act of love, sends hope hurtling into the cosmos. A lone spacecraft, small and fragile, tears through the void. Inside, an infant rests, wrapped in the crest of his lineage. He is Kal-El, last son of Krypton, his destination. A small, fragile world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, a world called Earth. In the original story, fate would place this child in the hands of a humble Kansas couple, the Kents. He would grow up in fields of wheat, beneath open skies, learning kindness, compassion, humanity. His strength would be tempered by morality, his power guided by humility. But what if destiny had faltered? What if the vessel did not fall into the embrace of gentle farmers, but instead into the hands of power-hungry men? The year is 1938. The world trembles on the brink of war. Nations sharpen their blades, alliances fracture, and governments seek weapons, new ways to dominate the battlefield. When the sky burns over the heartland of America, it is not Jonathan and Martha Kent who find the craft. It is not compassion that greets the last son of Krypton. It is the United States military. The crash is not witnessed by kind eyes, but by radar screens and armed patrols. Soldiers swarm the smoking crater, their rifles raised, their hearts pounding with fear and awe. Within the twisted wreckage they find him, a child, unscarred, untouched, crying amid the flames. A child who, impossibly, has survived an impact that should have killed any mortal. The infant is taken, not to a home, not to a family, but to a base, to a laboratory, to a cage. Imagine it, steel corridors echoing with footsteps, floodlights burning in sterile chambers, the sound of pens scratching as scientists record every breath he takes. They measure him, weigh him, prod him. They expose him to radiation, to pressure, to fire, and still the child does not break. In secret reports, he is given a name, Project Sentinel. To the men who control him, he is not a boy, he is not a life. He is a weapon waiting to be sharpened, raised not with lullabies, but with commands, not with bedtime stories, but with orders. His lullabies are the drills of marching soldiers. His lessons are combat manuals, tactical doctrines, and oaths of loyalty. And as he grows beneath the yellow sun of Earth, his power blooms, strength beyond measure, speed faster than sound, eyes that burn with the fire of stars. To Jonathan Kent, these gifts would have been miracles to nurture, but to the generals who oversee him, they are assets to be exploited. By the time the boy becomes a man, he is no longer Kal-El. He is no longer Clark Kent. He does not even know those names. He is property of the United States government. He is the weapon of mankind. The world never sees a Superman of hope, a protector standing above nations. Instead, it sees a shadow, a figure draped not in a cape of ideals, but in the camouflage of war. He is paraded before presidents and generals not as a man, but as a deterrent, an ultimatum written in flesh and steel. Bow to our might, or face him. And yet, within the soldier's heart, something stirs. For beneath the layers of programming, beneath the orders and conditioning, beats the heart of a man who was never meant to be caged. A man destined for more than war. A man who was meant to be free. But freedom is not given to weapons. It must be taken. This is the story of what might have been. A world where Superman was never a symbol of hope. A world where he became a symbol of fear. A world where the greatest hero of mankind was forged into its deadliest weapon. And now, the question: what happens when the most powerful being on Earth is not raised to love, but trained to obey? Years pass. The boy they once found in the wreckage of an alien craft is no longer a child. He is a soldier now, taller than any man, stronger than any machine, faster than any weapon the world has ever known. His body, impervious to bullets and fire. His mind, shaped by the doctrines of war. The generals watch him with pride. The scientists whisper in awe. To them, he is not Kal-El. He is not even human. He is a project, perfected. But the turning point comes not in a sterile chamber, nor in a hidden base, but on the battlefield. The year is 1950. The world is split by ideology. The Cold War is young, but its tension burns hotter each day. In Korea, war ignites. Men bleed in trenches, artillery thunders across mountains, and the sky trembles under the roar of bombers. And then he arrives. The weapon, not a plane, not a tank, a man, flying. Faster than any jet, unstoppable as a storm. He descends upon the battlefield like a god of war. His eyes blaze with heat, cutting through steel, turning armored vehicles into molten ruin. His fists strike with the force of earthquakes, shattering bunkers, scattering armies like leaves in the wind. The world changes that day. For the first time in human history, one nation wields not just nuclear fire, but a living weapon beyond imagination. A weapon that cannot be stopped, a weapon that cannot be matched. The soldiers on the ground look to him with terror and awe. To his enemies, he is a demon. To his allies, he is salvation. To the United States government, he is the ultimate deterrent. A message written across the skies: no one can challenge us, not while we control him. But what of the man himself? He does not think as others do. His childhood was not fields of wheat and lessons of kindness. It was drills, commands, punishments, rewards. He does not know freedom, only obedience. And yet, something burns deep inside, a whisper he cannot silence. When he flies over villages, he sees the eyes of children staring at him with fear. When he tears through enemy lines, he hears the screams not only of soldiers, but of families caught in the fire. He is told these things do not matter, that war demands sacrifice, that his mission is righteous. But somewhere, buried beneath steel walls and military orders, the heart of Kal-El stirs, a heart that does not understand cruelty, a heart that was never meant to be forged into a weapon. Still, he obeys. For now, the immediate consequences of his existence ripple across the globe. The Soviet Union, shaken by the sheer dominance of the United States, accelerates its own programs. Scientists in secret bunkers seek to replicate him, dissecting myths, rumors, fragments of alien technology. None succeed. Fear spreads in every government hall, whispers of balance destroyed, of a world forever at the mercy of one nation's hand. Alliances shift. Wars end before they begin, crushed beneath the shadow of the weapon, and for the American people he becomes a phantom symbol, never seen in the streets, never shown in parades, but always spoken of in hushed tones. Our guardian, our trump card, our angel of war. Yet to the man himself the titles mean nothing. He is never thanked, never embraced. He lives in shadows, summoned only when needed, his existence erased between missions. No name, no family, no purpose, beyond obedience. The divergence is complete. Where the world should have seen a hero, smiling in red and blue, lifting planes from the sky, saving innocents from disaster. It instead sees a ghost. A controlled figure who arrives only in times of war, only when death is required. Superman is no longer a symbol of hope. He has become the spectre of domination, and the world will never be the same. But cracks are forming. For though he was trained to obey, he was not born to obey. He was born free, under the light of a sun that awakens not only power in his body, but conscience in his soul. The government may suppress it, cage it, weaponize it, but they cannot kill it. And soon the greatest danger will not be the enemies who stand against America. The greatest danger will be when their weapon begins to question his masters. Thus begins the slow unraveling. The consequences of raising a god as a soldier are only beginning to unfold. The world is not blind. It sees what has happened. It feels the imbalance. One nation possesses a god, hidden but undeniable. And though the United States cloaks him in secrecy, the whispers cannot be silenced. Other nations know, leaders know. The people, though never shown his face, sense the presence of something unnatural. And so begins a new era. The balance of power, the delicate scales that define nations, wars and empires, shatters. Nuclear weapons, once the ultimate deterrent, suddenly seem obsolete. What is the use of missiles when a single man can melt their steel with his gaze? What is the value of tanks when one figure can tear them open with his hands? The age of warfare shifts overnight. The Soviet Union responds with fear and desperation. Their leaders speak of a counterbalance, of finding their own champion. In secret, they pour resources into science beyond ethics, into genetic experiments, into whispers of mythology. They search ancient ruins, unearth legends, hoping to uncover a fragment of power equal to the American weapon. None succeed. China, too, changes course. Rather than rival America directly, it begins to weave alliances, building influence not through strength, but through subtlety and unity. Nations huddle beneath its wing, seeking protection from the shadow of America's living weapon. Europe fractures. Some nations embrace the American shield, begging for its protection. Others recoil, horrified by the idea that freedom now rests not on diplomacy, not on law, but on the leash of a superhuman soldier. And so fear spreads. Fear that the man in the shadows, the ghost of war, could descend upon any capital at any time. The Cold War does not escalate into open nuclear fire. It does not need to. The mere existence of Project Sentinel freezes history. Battles end before they begin. Threats dissolve before they are spoken. The world does not live in peace. No, it lives in submission. A peace carved not by compassion, but by domination. And yet it is fragile, for peace built on fear cannot last forever. And what of the man at the center of it all? He grows older, stronger. His powers evolve beyond even what the generals imagined. He can hear the whispers of the world, cries of pain in languages he does not understand, yet feels deep in his bones. He can see disasters unfolding from miles above, storms tearing through coasts, fires devouring forests. His instincts scream at him to intervene, to help, to save. But he is forbidden. The generals remind him of his role, his purpose. You are a soldier, not a savior. You act when we command it. You do not decide. You do not choose. And so he obeys. But with each command, with each mission, the weight grows heavier. For within him is not the soul of a machine, but of a man who has never told his real name, never told the truth of his origin. A man who has never known love, only loyalty. Yet fragments begin to surface in classified files, in whispered words of scientists who dare to question. He learns of the symbol burned into his craft, the House of El. He learns that he was not born on Earth, that his strength is not a gift of mankind, but a legacy of another world. And for the first time he wonders, who am I? Not what am I, but who? That question becomes the seed of doubt, and in time, doubt becomes rebellion. Meanwhile, in the quiet fields of Kansas, Jonathan and Martha Kent live out their lives. They never know what fell from the sky that night, only that the government sealed off the area, forbidding entry. They never hold the child who was meant to be theirs. They never teach him kindness or show him how to live among men. Instead, their home remains silent. The crib remains empty. The life of Clark Kent never begins. Jonathan Kent dies never knowing that his son was out there, reshaping the destiny of mankind. Martha carries the weight of longing until her final days, never understanding why the stars seemed to cry that night. A hero's soul was denied the warmth that would have shaped it, and the world is poorer for it. But there is another figure, one whose destiny twists in this altered world. Lex Luthor. In the original timeline, Luthor becomes obsessed with Superman out of jealousy, out of fear, out of a desperate need to prove that man can stand against God. Here, his obsession burns even hotter. For in this world, Superman is not a free protector. He is a chained beast, a soldier in service to the government. To Luthor, this is even worse. Not only does the alien exist, he exists as the hand of tyranny. Luthor sees it for what it is, the death of human freedom. He cannot accept that mankind's destiny has been reduced to kneeling beneath the shadow of an alien weapon. And so Luthor dedicates his life to tearing down the system that controls him. He becomes not merely a businessman, but a revolutionary mind working in the shadows. He builds networks of spies, laboratories hidden from prying eyes. He searches for kryptonite, rumored fragments of the aliens' destroyed home. He hunts for weaknesses, both in the weapon and in the government that wields him. Ironically, in this reality, Luthor is not entirely wrong. His paranoia is justified, his obsession grounded in truth. He is no longer just a villain. He becomes the voice of resistance. And what of Lois Lane? In the world we know, she would meet a man disguised as Clark Kent. She would uncover his truth, and through her he would find his humanity. But in this world, there is no Clark Kent. There is only the weapon. Yet Lois still exists, a reporter with fire in her heart, unafraid of speaking truth to power. And in this fractured reality, she begins to chase the whispers. Stories of a phantom soldier, accounts of a man who can fly, sightings of devastation left behind with no explanation. The government denies it, officials silence it. But Lois does not stop. She begins to dig. And little by little she uncovers the truth, that there is a man behind the myth, not a machine, not a ghost, a man, and perhaps a prisoner. Her pursuit of the truth becomes dangerous, placing her against the most powerful men in America. But Lois is relentless, and her path inevitably will cross his. Far away in Gotham City, another figure rises, Bruce Wayne. Orphaned by violence, tempered by darkness, forged into the Batman. In the original world, Batman sees Superman as a potential threat, but one tempered by morality. Here, there is no morality, no disguise of Clark Kent. There is only the weapon. To Batman, this is unacceptable. A government-controlled superhuman is not a guardian, but a nightmare waiting to unfold. And so, as he builds his war against crime, he also builds contingencies, not only for the criminals of Gotham, but for the alien soldier chained to Washington. Unlike others, Batman does not fear him blindly. He studies him, he prepares for him. He begins to craft a plan, not only to fight him, but to free him. For in Batman's mind, no man should ever be caged, not even a god. And so the stage is set. On one side, the United States, wielding their alien soldier as the ultimate deterrent. On the other, the rest of the world scrambling in shadows, building weapons, forming alliances, waiting for the day when the balance shatters. In the middle, individuals, Lex Luthor, obsessed with breaking the chains of control. Lois Lane, chasing the truth. Batman, preparing in silence for a storm only he can see. And at the heart of it all, the man himself, Kal-El, the last son of Krypton. A soldier without a name, a weapon without a choice. But choice is coming. The cracks in the cage are widening. And when they break, the world will face a reckoning unlike anything it has ever known. For what is more dangerous? A Superman raised as a hero, or a Superman raised as a weapon who finally decides he will be a weapon no longer? The cracks cannot be hidden forever. No matter how strong the cage, no matter how heavy the chains, the truth always escapes. Kal-El, the weapon, begins to feel it more each day. His senses, sharper than any mortal's, betray the lies around him. He hears the cries of people suffering across oceans, pleas of disaster victims left unanswered, while he is ordered to remain idle. He sees corruption festering in the halls of power, men who use him not to protect humanity, but to secure dominance. And deep inside, a truth awakens. He was not born to obey, he was born to choose. The moment arrives not in war, but in tragedy. A great disaster strikes, a city swallowed by earthquake and fire. Thousands scream for help, their cries echoing across the sky. He hears them, he feels them, he knows he can save them, but his commanders forbid it. "This is not your mission," the general barks. "We do not reveal you for petty disasters. You act when we say, you save who we command." And in that moment, something snaps. Kal-El does not wait for orders. He launches into the skies, faster than sound, ignoring the commands thundering in his ear. He descends upon the burning city not as a weapon, but as a savior. He tears apart collapsed buildings, shielding survivors with his body. He extinguishes flames with frozen breath, lifts rubble that no machine could move, and carries the injured to safety. For the first time the world sees him, not as a shadow, not as a rumor, but as a man who saves, a man who protects. The government is furious. They brand him a traitor, a rogue asset. But for the people, a new word is whispered for the first time: Superman. The United States cannot allow their weapon to act without control, and so they attempt to rein him in. They summon him to the Pentagon, surround him with threats, with missiles, with soldiers armed with kryptonite, unearthed in secret, as a last resort. "Obey," the general demands, "or be destroyed." But Kal-El no longer bows. He looks upon the men who shaped his life, who turned him into a weapon, and at last he speaks words they have never heard. "I am not your property. I am not your soldier. I am not your weapon." And in defiance, he rips the crest of their insignia from his uniform, letting it fall to the ground. The room trembles not with violence, but with realization. Their God has broken free. The revelation shakes the earth. Nations see the truth. The weapon is no longer chained. The fear that once froze them begins to melt, not into safety, but into chaos. Some celebrate him as a liberator. Others see him as the greatest threat imaginable. If he is not controlled by America, who will he obey? Himself? The Soviet Union scrambles, believing the moment of reckoning has come. China accelerates its alliances. The fragile balance of decades teeters on collapse. And through it all, one truth spreads across every headline, every broadcast, every whispered conversation in the dark. Superman is real, and he has chosen freedom. In the chaos, figures long hidden begin to rise. Lex Luthor steps from the shadows, presenting himself not as a villain, but as a prophet who foresaw this moment. He declares that mankind must stand united, not beneath Superman, but alongside him, or against him if necessary. He offers solutions, weapons, ideas, but in truth, his obsession burns hotter than ever. He does not want to destroy Superman. He wants to surpass him. Lois Lane publishes the story that defines her career, the exposé that reveals the secret history of the weapon who became a man. She gives him more than a name. She gives him identity. She calls him what the people now whisper, Superman. Through her words, he is humanized, not as a monster of war, but as a figure of hope. And in Lois, Kal-El finds what he never had before, someone who sees him not as an asset, but as a person. And in the shadows of Gotham, Batman completes his preparations. He has studied, trained, and planned for this exact moment. But when he confronts Superman, not with fists, not with weapons, but with words, he does not threaten him. He challenges him. You've broken free. Now prove you deserve it. Be more than their soldier. Be more than their weapon. Be what this world needs. The climax arrives when the United States attempts one last desperate act. In fear of losing control, they launch an assault, not against an enemy nation, but against their own creation. Warplanes roar, kryptonite weapons gleam, nuclear codes hover at the edge of activation. They would rather destroy him than let him be free. But Superman does not answer with violence. He does not burn them with his eyes, nor crush them with his fists. Instead, he stands before the world's cameras, before every nation, every leader, every citizen, and declares the truth. I was never yours. I was never theirs. I am of Krypton, but I am also of Earth. I am not here to rule you. I am not here to destroy you. I am here to protect you, all of you. And with those words, the chains are broken forever. The world is changed. The balance of power is no longer defined by weapons, by nations, by fear. It is defined by a single choice, the choice of one man to rise above his programming, above his chains, and become more. Superman no longer belongs to the United States. He belongs to the world. And though fear remains, fear of his strength, fear of his potential, hope begins to grow where fear once reigned. Because hope is not given by governments. Hope is born in choice. And Kal-El, last son of Krypton, has chosen. He will not be a weapon. He will not be a soldier. He will not be a tool of tyranny. He will be Superman. Yet, as dawn breaks, shadows linger. Lex Luthor sharpens his mind, preparing for the day when Superman may fail or betray. Batman watches from the rooftops, ready should hope turn to danger. Lois Lane, pen in hand, prepares to chronicle a new era, both wondrous and terrifying. And the governments of the world, stripped of their leash, plot in silence, whispering of contingencies. For trust, once broken, is not easily repaired. The world holds its breath. And high above, in the skies where no nation's flag can reach, Superman soars, not as a weapon, not as a soldier, but as something new, something greater. The symbol of what humanity could be, not fear, not control, but hope. And so, the question is answered. What if Superman had been found by the government and turned into a military weapon? The answer is both tragedy and triumph. A world of fear transformed into a world of choice. A man forged as a weapon who chose instead to be a hero. The story of Superman rewritten. Thanks for watching our video. For more alternative endings like this, subscribe to the channel. See you on the next video.